Welcome to this explainer. As a therapist, I regularly sit down with clients to explore what is honestly a deeply relatable and, let's face it, intensely frustrating human experience. We're going to dive into why being ignored can feel so utterly captivating. So, if you have ever found yourself just obsessively staring at your phone, checking for a message from someone who is giving you absolutely nothing, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're going to put on our therapist hats, dissect the invisible forces at play here, and hopefully help you understand your own mind just a little bit better.
Which brings us to a really powerful hook, a question we've all probably asked ourselves at some point. Why do we chase silence? Seriously, why is it that when someone completely ignores us, our brain suddenly decides, oh, I absolutely must chase them? Logically speaking, if someone walks away or goes radio silent, we should just match their energy and walk away too, right? But, as we know, logic rarely dictates our emotional attachments. Instead, that sudden withdrawal of attention flips this primal switch right in our nervous system. Suddenly, the silence becomes literally the loudest thing in the room, and the person offering us absolutely nothing becomes the only person we want.
So let's move right into our first major section today, Part 1, the magnetic pull of silence.
In my practice, I see this dynamic constantly. The silence itself acts as a literal magnet. It pulls you in rather than pushing you away. This is a psychological reaction where a lack of response creates an overwhelming urge to pursue the person ignoring you. What we're really looking at here is the classic anxious avoidant attachment trap. When an avoidant person pulls away, using that silence to create emotional distance and protect their independence, it triggers a deep, deep panic in someone with an anxious attachment style. That lack of response doesn't signal it's over to your brain. It actually signals a threat to your connection. And your biological response to a threatened connection? Well, it's to work twice as hard to reestablish it. You are quite literally magnetized to the void they left behind.
And this perfectly frames the core focus of our explainer today. We are exploring the psychology behind chasing someone who ignores you. It's so vital to understand this, guys. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a lack of self-respect. It is just psychology. It's your nervous system reacting to a perceived loss. By getting to the bottom of the mechanics of why we chase, we can actually begin to dismantle that urge and take back our own emotional control. Now, let's look closer at the action of the chase itself. In Part 2, Chasing the Unattainable. The crucial point to grasp here is that the unattainable equals the ultimate puzzle. Our minds often interpret someone being emotionally or physically out of reach as a puzzle that we simply must solve. You see, the human brain absolutely despises open loops. In psychology, we actually call this the Zeigarnik effect, the idea that we remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks way better than completed ones. So when someone ignores you, they're essentially handing you a massive, glaring, uncompleted puzzle, and your brain fixates on it. You start wondering, why did they pull away? What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? Their unattainability makes them feel high value, and your brain convinces you that solving the puzzle of their silence is the only thing that will finally bring you peace and validation. Let's transition back into the clinic for Part 3, the psychology behind the chase, where we'll examine the actual psychological mechanics of this compelling urge. This really breaks down how a simple lack of communication quickly spirals into a highly energetic, even obsessive pursuit. Step 1, they ignore you. The avoidant behavior happens. Then we hit Step 2, curiosity spikes. This is where the chemistry kicks in. But it's not just basic curiosity. You're getting a massive hit of dopamine driven by uncertainty. In behavioral psychology, intermittent reinforcement, getting rewarded only sometimes and unpredictably, is actually the most addictive schedule of reward. You literally don't know if or when they will reply, which basically turns your phone into a slot machine. And finally, Step 3, the chase begins. You're fueled by anxiety, dopamine, and this desperate need to regulate your nervous system by finally getting them to respond.
What's fascinating here is that silence absolutely speaks louder than words. In the absence of a response, our anxious brains will inevitably invent a dramatic narrative just to fill that void. Think about it. Silence is a blank canvas. When an avoidant person retreats into silence, they aren't actually giving you any real information. So, what happens? Your brain writes the script. You might tell yourself, they're just testing you. Or maybe they're super intimidated by their intense feelings for you. Or perhaps you made some fatal flaw in your last text that you just need to apologize for. We end up projecting our own deepest insecurities, or on the flip side, our highest romantic hopes, onto their absolute silence.
All right, let's ground this in some everyday reality in Part 4, simple real-life examples. Because let's face it, sometimes we just have to laugh to cope with the ridiculous relationship habits our brains put us through.
Just compare a boring prompt text back versus a read receipt with absolutely no reply. If someone texts you back promptly and consistently, it feels safe. It's secure. But for someone caught up in that anxious avoidant trap, that safety can honestly feel kind of boring. We so often confuse the adrenaline and anxiety of an unpredictable partner with actual romantic chemistry. So when you see that red receipt just sitting there for 6 hours, your heart rate elevates, you get butterflies, and your focus narrows entirely onto them. You think it's passion, but biologically speaking, your body is literally just in fight or flight mode.
And to cope with all that anxiety, we naturally resort to light humor, making up wildly entertaining excuses to justify keeping the chase alive. We'll tell our friends, well, maybe they just dropped their phone in the ocean. Or maybe they got kidnapped by a cartel that strictly forbids texting. Or maybe they literally fell into a coma right after reading my message. As therapists, we call these rationalizations. We will invent almost any wild scenario to protect our own ego from a very simple, very painful truth. They saw the message, and they actively chose not to engage.
Let's do a quick reality check on the reality of the chase. First, it is exhausting. It completely drains your mental bandwidth. Second, it is totally one-sided. You are out there doing all the emotional heavy lifting. And third, it rarely ends with catching them. Even if you do momentarily catch their attention, the avoidant partner is highly likely to feel suffocated by your pursuit and just pull away again. Boom, you're right back at the start, restarting the exact same exhausting cycle.
So, as we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to process. Are you chasing them, or are you just chasing their silence? Are you really in love with this person, or are you maybe just addicted to the anxiety of the puzzle? Are you looking for a healthy reciprocal partnership, or are you desperately trying to conquer their silence just to prove your own worth? The next time you feel that magnetic pull to chase someone who is walking away, I want you to stop, take a deep breath, and remember this.